Lesson 5, The Ocean. Passage 1. Dealing with plastic in the sea.
The Pacific Ocean contains more than half the water on the planet. It also holds a lot of trash, much of it plastic. There are plastic bottles, plastic bags, food wrappers, and many other kinds of packaging. Many of them were used only once before becoming trash and ending up in the ocean. Trillions of pieces of plastic are floating in the Pacific, and more go into its waters each year. All this trash is an ugly mess. It's an expensive problem, too. It costs billions of dollars each year to the fishing, shipping, and tourism industries. More than that, it's dangerous. Every year, at least 1 million seabirds and many thousands of other animals die because of plastic pollution. People's health is also affected because the plastic is full of toxic chemicals. Fish eat the plastic, and people eat the fish. Some of the trash ends up on beaches. The United States spends about $500 million a year to clean up its West Coast beaches alone. Around the world, people are working to clean up the beaches in their own countries. Since 1986, hundreds of thousands of volunteers have joined the International Coastal Cleanup. On the day of the 2014 cleanup, volunteers picked up more than 16 million pounds of trash. Other people are trying to figure out how to get the plastic out of the ocean. This is what Boyan Slat is working on. At age 16, he started studying the problem. He soon invented a system for catching plastic floating on or near the surface. At 19, Boyan left his university in the Netherlands to start a foundation, the Ocean Cleanup. He now leads a large team of scientists and engineers. They are developing the technology to clean millions of pounds of plastic from the sea. Their goal is to clean up the largest garbage patch in the Pacific. They expect the job will take years. For his efforts, Boyan received the United Nations' highest environmental award. The UN named him a champion of the Earth. Boyan and his team are in a hurry to get plastic out of the ocean. Right now, most of it is in large pieces. However, sunlight is turning it into microplastics, very tiny pieces. Those are even more dangerous. They're also harder to collect. Boyan does not believe that the system he invented will end the problem of garbage patches in the sea. He asks, how are we now going to make sure no more plastic enters the oceans in the first place? About 8 million tons of plastic go into the sea every year. More and more plastic bags, bottles, and food wrappers. More and more plastic cups, forks, knives, and spoons. What can we do? People fighting the problem say one answer is to change laws. They want to make the producers of plastic take more responsibility for it. They say another way is for people to make small changes in how they live. Some people are trying to make a difference by taking their own bags to the store instead of accepting plastic bags, buying products that can be reused, recycling plastic and buying recycled products, and volunteering to clean up their own part of the planet.
Passage 2. What does the ocean mean to us?
Some people have no trouble explaining how the ocean is important in their lives. They live near it and depend on it for food. It gives them the work that supports their families. For people who live far from the ocean, the ways they are connected to it may not be so clear. However, if you know a few facts about the ocean, it's easy to see how important it is for all life on Earth. Did you know that the ocean covers 72% of the Earth's surface? It helps regulate the climate by holding heat from the sun. It also supplies half of the oxygen in the air we breathe. The oxygen is produced by phytoplankton, tiny ocean plants that live just below the surface. These facts have led people to call the ocean Earth's life support system. Did you know that 8 of the world's 10 largest cities are near the ocean? History explains why this is so. Cities began and grew on the coast, especially at the mouths of rivers, because the ocean was so important for food and transport. Today, almost half the people in the world live near the ocean. While facts like these explain why the ocean matters, they do not answer another question. How does the ocean make us feel? The ocean has a strong effect on people's emotions. It can cause fear of what we cannot see and do not know, of things that live in the ocean, or of big storms like hurricanes and typhoons. It makes sense to be afraid of those. But the ocean can also make us feel calm and relaxed. How does it do that? Why do so many vacationers want to be at the ocean? Why do people pay so much to live where they can see it? What is it that draws us to the ocean? Many of us are drawn to it to have fun. We want to swim in it or go out in boats. Think of all the ways people have invented to play in and on the water. Others just want to be near the ocean. Perhaps it's because of the great open space where we can see miles of open water and sky. Some say the space makes them feel free and full of hope. Others love the ever-changing colors of the sea. Still others are drawn by its sounds. The crash of waves against rocks is exciting, while the gentle sound of small waves on the beach is calming and comforting. Perhaps what draws people to the ocean is even more basic. Did you know that our brains are about 73% water? The answer to the question of what draws us to the sea may lie in the mysteries of the human body. Many of us choose to be near the ocean when we can. We love seeing the ocean, hearing it, smelling it, playing in it, walking or sitting by it. We may not know why we feel the way we do about it. However, we do know how every person on Earth is connected to the ocean and how important that relationship is.
Passage 3. The crab.
Introduction. Someone with an interest in sea creatures could easily spend their entire life studying crabs. The crab is one of the oldest living types of animals, and there are about 4,500 kinds of them. Among all these crabs, there are many differences, but there are certain things that all crabs have in common. Ways that all crabs are alike. All crabs are invertebrates. That means they have no backbone. Did you know that invertebrates make up about 95% of all known animals? All crabs have a hard shell called an exoskeleton. They have 10 legs, with 5 on each side, and they have an unusual way of walking. Crabs can go forward or back, but usually move sideways. The first or front pair of a crab's legs are its claws. Some differences among crabs. Not all crabs are sea creatures. Some types of crabs do live underwater, but others live on land, and some can live in either environment. Some manage to survive in the hot water near underwater volcanoes, while others live under the ice in Antarctica. Crabs are often the same color as their environment. The most common colors are gray, brown, and white. However, some crabs are beautiful reds, blues, and purples. Some crabs are herbivores, plant eaters. Others are carnivores, meat eaters. And others are omnivores, plant and meat eaters. Did you know? Christmas Island red crabs must put their eggs into the ocean so that the baby crabs can hatch, come out of the egg. The adult crabs cannot swim or breathe underwater. That makes it a dangerous business to be a mother. The largest crab in the world, the Japanese spider crab, can be up to 4 meters across, about 13 feet. The smallest is the pea crab. It's about the size of, can you guess? The largest land crab is the robber crab, or coconut crab. It can climb trees to pick coconuts. Its claws are strong and sharp enough that it can open the coconuts too. The Japanese blue crab is the kind of crab most often eaten. An especially helpful crab. The tiny trapeziid crab, only 1 centimeter long, or 1/3 of an inch, helps keep coral reefs alive. It cleans dirt from the reefs, letting the coral get the sunlight it needs to live. Today, much of the coral in the ocean is dying, so we should be glad for any help it can get. The last word on crabs. If someone calls you crabby, they are not paying you a compliment. A person who is crabby seems unhappy and often complains. They might always be like that, or they might get that way only at certain times. Some of us get crabby when we are tired or hungry, or have too much work to do. It may not be fair to the poor crab to use its name this way, but English speakers have been doing it since the 1700s and will probably go on doing it. So the crab will just have to put up with it.
Passage 4. Underwater Wonderland.
The Great Barrier Reef off the coast of Australia draws people from all over the world. It's a beautiful place to swim, go boating, and relax on the beach. However, what is most special about the Great Barrier Reef is what you can see underwater. The Great Barrier Reef is 1,400 miles long, over 2,200 kilometers. It's made up of almost 1,000 islands and nearly 3,000 coral reefs, making it the world's largest coral reef system. It's the only living thing on the planet that can be seen from space. The reefs were built over thousands of years by billions of tiny sea creatures called coral polyps. It may be difficult to think of coral polyps as animals. They do not swim or move themselves across the ocean floor. They do not have eyes, ears, a heart, or a brain. A coral polyp is basically a tiny soft body with a mouth and a stomach. It also has tentacles that help it protect itself and catch food. Some coral polyps live alone, but most live in groups called colonies. Each differently shaped part of a reef is its own colony. A colony has a single species or type of coral. In the Great Barrier Reef, there are about 400 species of coral in all. Most of the 400 are hard coral species, the type that builds reefs. They produce calcium carbonate, the same thing shells are made of, at the base of their bodies. They use it to attach themselves to a rock or the sea floor. Then it becomes hard, like a shell. Reefs are built over time as coral produce more and more calcium carbonate. Reefs then attract many other types of sea creatures and plants. Exactly how many, no one can say. Counting just the fish, the Great Barrier Reef is home to more than 1,500 species. In 1975, the Australian government established the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park. The point was to protect the reefs. However, these reefs, like coral reefs everywhere, are in danger. A great deal of the coral has already died. Researchers studying the situation found that between 1985 and 2012, the Great Barrier Reef had lost half its coral cover. Violent storms called cyclones destroyed many of the reefs. The researchers say storms caused about half the damage to the coral. Climate change could cause storms like these to hit more often. If they do, the coral cover won't have enough time between storms to grow back. The second largest problem was a growing number of crown-of-thorns starfish. They eat coral polyps. Between 1985 and 2012, they ate them faster than the coral cover could grow back. Coral everywhere face the problem of higher ocean temperatures caused by climate change. Some coral species cannot deal with the warmer waters. Then there is ocean pollution. No species deals well with that. In the past few years, many countries have established new marine protected areas, MPAs. That's great news. These are parts of the ocean that are like national parks on land. In an MPA, human activities, especially commercial fishing, are controlled to protect the plants and animals. More MPAs are needed. Right now, only 1% of the ocean is protected in this way. However, even in MPAs, as in the Great Barrier Reef, nature is not safe from pollution or climate change.